Most people have a celebrity that they wish they could get closer to, right? But when does admiration become obsession? Then when does that obsession become violent? You might remember that actress Teresa Saldana, host of Lifetime's Confessions of Crime, was the victim of a brutal attack by a crazed fan.
Well, I think that most people who are actors must go on and must live their lives as artists and as people without giving into fear or panic.
Now, Teresa was lucky. She survived. But my Sister Sam actress, Rebecca Schaefer, was not so lucky. She was shot dead by a total stranger, a fan craving her love and her undevoted attention. Joining us today is actress Victoria Windham from NBC's Another World, who fell victim to a fan's crazy obsession. Also meet Tom Figueroa, who is obsessed with being part of Liza Minnelli's life. Also joining us, Dr. Dan Martell. He's an expert who did a 5-year study of hundreds of people obsessed with celebrities. And author Missy Laws, whose book, Meet the Stars, is a step-by-step guide on meeting any and every celebrity. Please help me welcome them all, will you? So, Victoria, we'll start with you. Everybody, of course, wants to have fans. I mean, anybody in the performance arts wants to have fans who love them and adore them. Tell us how fans have become obsessed with you, and what have they done?
Well, first I have to say that in the 25 years I've been in the business, I found that the majority of audiences are very sophisticated, very understanding of the demarcation between public and private selves. But occasionally, they don't make that distinction, and then it becomes intrusive and invasive. In my own life, it's only been intrusive and invasive, bad enough. And in one instance, at about 10:30 one night, when my children were very small, a collection of young people arrived at my doorstep and wanted to be let into my home. And they had convinced the local police that they were family members, because I had an unlisted phone number, and that they hadn't, you know, they gave the police an elaborate story and asked for directions to my house, and they were convincing enough that the police gave them directions to my house.
It was that easy to find your house?
It wasn't that easy, and so they did need direct.
Yeah, but I mean, for the police to just cooperate like that and for them to believe them.
Well, they gave a very convincing story. It was quite an elaborate story, and I had the whole police department apologizing profusely for that. But I had to move, and now I left that community and now have a guard dog and a person who lives on my property.
This scared you?
It was an intrusion that is off-putting, especially, you know, it's your home. I think there's a misunderstanding here. I think that people misunderstand why entertainers entertain. People believe that entertainers entertain because they're exhibitionists. That's incorrect. Most of the entertainers that I know entertain because they're not easy in private and real life, and they need the freedom and protection provided by an artificial situation in which to share their humanity with people.
Have your fans
ever... Once a fan intrudes into your private life, an entertainer is left with being invaded. And then that entertainer can only assume one thing from that kind of a fan: you don't understand me, and if you don't understand me, you can't be trusted. And I think that's the antithesis of what that fan probably wants. Has
a fan ever intruded to the point where he or she was violent with you?
Yes. Years ago, when my character was very naughty, I was, you remember. A lady in an aberration started hitting me in a department store, and luckily my very strapping husband was with me, and I got behind him and then got out of the store, and that was frightening. Yeah. That was frightening. But she didn't immediately realize what she had done and then came over to hug me. But by that time,
the damage was done.
The damage was done, and you don't want to be near them.
All right, Tom Figueroa, you are one of these people who is just madly in love with a celebrity, with Liza Minnelli. First of all, where does that come from, and why?
Well, I admired her since I was a child because, you know, I just always loved showbiz. You know, so growing up, loving show business, and then watching TV and seeing Liza, she's so great.
Now, you love her so much that you, in fact, you show us what you did.
I have a tattoo.
He has a tattoo right on his arm here, folks. Can you see? Let's get a close-up of that. Now, when did you have this done, Tom?
I had this done about 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, when I was 19.
Have you met her?
Yes, I've met her twice. I've met her twice.
Was she scared of you?
No, not at all.
No?
Not at all.
She gave you a warm reception?
She was very sweet. She was very surprised. I have to admit, she was very surprised when she saw the tattoo.
Yeah.
You know, she thought it was fake. So I said, no, it's not fake. Here, rub it. And she just loved it. She was very sweet, and then she acknowledged how much I really liked her. And I want everyone to know that I just have a strong admiration for Liza, not an obsession, a strong admiration.
All right, Dr. Dan Martell, that brings up a good point. What's the difference between a strong admiration and an obsession, especially when that obsession brings a fan over the edge and commits, like, a violent crime, perhaps?
Right. Well, I think one of the important points at which you make the transition from healthy fanhood into something more dangerous is when your interest in the public figure begins to interfere with your social functioning, your work, your private life in some way, so that you're more interested in staying home and watching your star on TV than interacting with real people.
Has it gotten that bad for you, Tom, where you're that interested in Liza that...
No, 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 no. I have my own life, and the Liza thing is just like a hobby. It's something on the side, something, you know, fun to do, something extra.
All right, Missy Laws, you wrote this book. Now, I would imagine a lot of celebrities would have a problem with the fact that you wrote a book that tells people out there, the general public, exactly how to meet them, where to go, and how to approach these stars.
Yeah,
have
but
you found that?
You have to understand, I haven't found that at all. And you have to understand, in my book, I specifically say never go to a celebrity's house, never bother a celebrity when they're eating. You know, you want to respect their privacy, because the whole point of the book is for them to like you. You want the date with them, or you want, you know, to be their best friend, or you want to get a part in the next movie.
So how do you tell them to meet the stars?
Well, you go through a process of tracking them down, finding, you know, their itinerary, finding out where they're going to be. You're going to meet them in some kind of a social setting, probably, because, as I said, you don't want to intrude on their private life. You can go through meeting their friends around them first. You're going to act confident in yourself. You're going to dress properly. You're going to, you know, you have to keep in mind that you have something to offer them, too. I mean, you can't just say, oh, they're so wonderful, and, you know, why would they want to meet me? You have to say, no, I'm going to be a good friend to that person, or they're going to get something out of it, too.
All right. We're going to take a break. Victoria, before we go, though, do you have a problem with this book? Do you have a problem with that concept of a book where you can actually find out, like have a map to people's private lives, basically?
Well, I think I'd have to read the book to answer that more in depth, but from what she's just said, if it's an angle, I'd have to hear more.
Okay, well, we'll hear more right after the break. We'll come right back. Stay with us. Back talking about celebrities and the fans who are obsessed with them. Please welcome back Victoria Windham from Another World, Tom Figueroa, who is obsessed with Liza Minnelli, or he says he admires her greatly, and Dr. Dan Martell, who is an expert in this area, and Missy Laws, who wrote a book on meeting and greeting the stars. Now, Dr. Martell, I have to ask you, what's your opinion on a book such as Missy's?
Well, you know, this is America. Missy certainly got a right to write a book like this. Personally, I think that in the hands of someone who is mentally ill, this book could be dangerous towards, you know, some of the public figures.
And that book could, in fact, get into the hands of somebody who has a problem.
Essentially give them a map to find a potential victim. And I personally have a problem with that.
Yeah. So what are we talking about here? It could be a loose cannon in anybody's hand, basically, right?
Well, you know, I don't want to trash Missy's book. You know, I think what's more important is, you know, these people are out there in the public, and I think it's important for viewers that watch this show, you know, if you know someone who's overly concerned, who has a fantasy that they believe, that they have a special relationship with some public figure, to help those people get into treatment. You know, rather than trying to say, well, if there weren't books, you know, there's all kind of things. If they want to find them, they're going to find the public figures when they get that intense.
Yeah. What type of person might go over the edge and might become violent with his or her obsession?
Well, usually these are people who have a major mental illness. They have a fixed, false belief that they share a special relationship. Sometimes these are sexual or erotic relationships. They believe they're married to the public figure, or they're in a business associate with the public figure. And they may get frustrated in efforts to contact if the public figure doesn't reciprocate their admiration and doesn't acknowledge the fact that, gee, we're married. then they get upset and they may get vindictive.
Vicki, how do you treat your fans in general?
Oh, I love them, and I'm very grateful for their support. It's when they cross the line.
But I mean, are you sometimes looking over your shoulder saying,
Oh,
gee,
yes, absolutely. I mean, it's a big world out there, and we've all seen what happens when people who are celebrities aren't alert about the few people who might cross the line and be confused about separating a public person from a public persona from the private person. And those few people make a celebrity want to keep a certain amount of distance.
Okay, I want you to comment on what Missy's about to say. Missy, I want you to defend your book, say, if it got into the hands of the kind of person we're talking about here.
Well, I mean, if someone wants to find a celebrity, my book is common sense is really what it is. And there have been a lot of people who have sought out celebrities who have never read my book. And there have been a lot of, you know, I mean, you could take a knife and you could say, I can dice tomatoes with it, or I can kill someone with it. You could say that about anything in the world. And I feel that because I advocated in my book, you know, that you want the person to like you. You want them to retain their privacy. You want to keep a distance so that they're not afraid of you. That's
but again,
the whole
if it
point.
gets into the wrong hands.
Well, anything could get in, any object could get into the wrong hands and become something. I mean, I agree. I'm not for people doing, you know, injuring celebrities. I think that's a terrible thing. And I don't promote that at all. But I do feel that the general feel of my book is very different from that. And I do think that if someone just sat down and thought about it, anything that's in my book is total common sense, and one could figure it out themselves.
But you say in your book that you've told them ways to get around the person's security. Mm-hmm. Didn't that give you pause? Because what is the security there for, do you think?
Well,
I mean, that's always what it boils down to is where isn't there a line beyond which an entertainer is allowed to go off stage and feel a certain amount of security and comfort in order to come. Celebrities need downtime. They need to restoke. Mm-hmm. And if all of that downtime is spent trying to protect themselves against somebody who might get through the guard, they don't have that very important downtime.
But then that person would never meet you. Maybe there's someone who has always wanted to meet you. And I want to help people make those fantasies come true in a positive way. And it could be a positive thing for you. The man of your dreams, I don't know if you're married or not, could be saying, I want to meet her. I think that she and I would be, you know, a nice couple. And he might meet you, and you might be very happy that he met you. And it could work out. I think
that those situations work out better in a less artificial way. But be that as it may, the incredible invasion to me of any of that kind of tactic, I think, has to do with, certainly in my own industry, now I can't speak for all celebrities, but certainly in the entertainment industry, an entertainer opens themselves up and we share our most private emotional feelings in a very public way. And so consequently, we have a very personal relationship with the audience as a whole. Whatever I do as an actress to touch you or move you is the best of me that I have to give.
How much of yourself do you want to give?
After that, I need time to restoke, and if that time to restoke is always intruded by the 1,000,001 people that want to get to you, because they think that you're going to be like that every minute of the day, and you can't possibly, and there would be nothing left.
See, there are a lot of celebrities who don't feel the way she does. I remember interviewing Penny Marshall about a year ago, and she was sitting behind me in a theater, and I turned around and said, do you mind if I interview you for my book? And she said, you know, I wish more people would come up and talk to me. You know, I think because they think I'm famous, they're afraid to come up to me, and I really wish people would come up to me. I've heard Bob Hope say that. I've heard Jay Leno say that. There are people that don't feel the way you do. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the way you feel about it.
I think it's the different, obviously it's a different thing you do. I think, you know, I'm an actor, they're entertainers. Maybe that's the difference.
Maybe so.
All right, we got a question here.
This is for Vicki. I was wondering, how do you feel about the people that write the books with the maps of stars' homes in them?
Yeah, that I find very difficult. And I would...
they're mostly inaccurate anyway.
I would feel very intruded upon. I mean, that your privacy, you have to have some place where you can just be yourself and be a mommy and be a wife and be a private person.
Hi, my personal favorite's Phil Collins. I have a friend who could double for him. I was just wondering, in order to meet him...
Are you obsessed? Are you obsessed with Phil Collins?
I have his towel from the last show he did at Madison Square Garden. It took 7 shows to get it, but I got it.
Would you do anything to meet him?
I wouldn't want to hurt him or anything. I would like to meet him, though, you know, because he's very down to earth. He comes across as that. But I was just wondering if the book's on sale, because I have nothing that I want to go and attack or whatever. I would just like to meet him, you know.
Yeah.
And this is healthy, right, Doctor? This kind of attitude.
I think so, yeah. I mean, again, you get into these issues that performers and public figures have private lives. And it's one thing if they're in a situation, they're on a talk show, they're signing autographs after a performance, that's an appropriate setting. But when fans start to encroach in inappropriate places, when they're showing up at their home, when they're showing up in their private lives, when they're approaching them in restaurants and this kind of thing, that's invasive, that's intrusive, that's inappropriate.
And would you show up at a restaurant where Liza was eating and walk up to her table, Tom? And feel good about that? And feel comfortable doing that?
I don't think I would do that. No, that's a little...
Nah, come on, Tom.
No, that's a little, you know... I don't think I would go
come on, you got a tattoo on your arm.
Something personal.
Good for him.
Or socially.
I think people in this industry, though, have to expect this a little bit. I think when you go into this profession, it goes along with the territory.
No, but that's my point. That's exactly
You're saying it shouldn't go along with the territory.
No, it's the public forum that we're in now. I'm perfectly comfortable to talk with you now. If you were to go into your dressing room, I would no more open that door and intrude on you. So I don't expect it to be done if I'm in my dressing room.
If you were in the green room, though, would you feel okay if you were in the green room?
Yes, but if you notice, I wasn't, you know.
Actually, I didn't notice that.
All right, Vicki, how much of yourself do you think your fans are entitled to?
I think they're entitled to everything that I give them over the tube, which is everything I am, the best of me. But I don't believe they're entitled to my private life that I share with my family, and I think that all of them know that. For the most part. It's just the very few that can't make that separation. And it's a separation. This gentleman just said something very interesting. He said, Phil Collins is a very together guy, at least he comes across that way. That's the operative. Maybe he isn't a very together guy. And maybe he can't deal with you on a private basis. Maybe the best that you're getting from Phil Collins is what he's giving you, which is huge. You don't do that to him, do you? You don't give him anything.
But hey, you got his towel.
So why do you have a right to go back, to go back and expect more of that? More. The man is doing as much as he can for you by sharing with you his humanity through his art. That's what an actor does. That's what any of them.
What now?
That's what I appreciate.
Yes,
appreciate about
him. But when is he allowed to say enough is enough? I've now entertained you for 2.5 hours. I've opened a vein for you. And now I need my time to be with my friends and hang out. You know,
right.
you look at it.
That's the difference. I look at it because I'm there and it's exhausting.
No, but you're looking at it as if...
unless you've been me, you couldn't possibly know how exhausting that is.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying, you look at it as if you give and you don't get anything in return from meeting your fans or the people out there. And the way I'm looking at it is you go to that celebrity to give something and you want to... It's a reciprocal
I get a tremendous amount from them.
I want to say just one thing.
All right, last word. Go ahead.
But in general.
The fans shouldn't be embarrassed about going up to a celebrity and asking them for an autograph, because, you know, we support those stars. So, you know, fans have rights to go up and ask for an autograph. And the stars should, you know, in return show their satisfaction about our, you know, supporting them and give us an autograph. There's nothing wrong with going up and asking for an autograph. So we have rights.
Okay,
fans
folks.
have rights.
All right, and we've heard them loud and clear. Missy Laws, Dr. Dan Martell, Tom Figueroa, Vicki Windham, thank you all very much for being with us today. Be right back.